Hi, friends. Welcome to the Mastermind Moments podcast.
Hosted by your pals, Josh and Sasha.
Join us during our weekly mastermind as we collaborate on how to make the most out of our lives.
Not only are we going to mastermind our careers, we're going to work on all areas of life together.
Let's do it. Listen in as we make the most of our mastermind moments.
Hi.
Hello. I'm good. How are you?
Good. Josh, you're looking spicy and extra fresh with this new haircut.
Thank you. It's my first haircut in 3 months, so I would hope I'm looking fresh. I was looking a bit homeless before.
Oh my God. Yeah, it's so funny because now that we're doing these calls, I can actually see what you look like as opposed to voice messages. I would have no idea.
No, exactly. But I shaved as well, so I'm looking like a person who owns a home now.
A fresh spring chicken.
Yes, exactly. Fresh spring chicken.
How's your week been?
It's been busy. It's been really busy. I went away for a few days with some friends and it was really nice, really wholesome. Drove about 6 hours to the southwest of England, which I'd never been to before. It's meant to be like the California of the UK. And I'd never been before, but it's beautiful. We went with about 16, 17 of us. So a big group. We rented this mansion in Cornwall. And it was absolutely gorgeous. Had such a good time.
Oh my God, I love it. I only know Cornwall from the movie About Time. Have you seen that movie?
No, I haven't. Is it a rom-com?
It's a rom-com, but honestly, I think it's probably my top 3 favorite movies ever because it starts as a rom-com and then it ends up being a movie about life.
Right. Okay.
I highly suggest it. It really tugs at your heartstrings. I don't know if you're a rom-com fan. I actually don't know I don't even know what your favorite movie is other than that Shroom movie you made me watch that one time. I was hungover as fuck. Oh my God, I was staying at Josh and Bella's with my roommates at the time, and we went out. I think we went out Saturday night, and we were at home playing drinking games. I got so drunk, and then we went out to the club, and I was too drunk. They didn't let me in, so we ended up going to McDonald's. And then I ended up getting sick, whatever. It's this night was a crazy night. And then the next day we went out again, but I decided not to drink. Long story. And then the next day, it was me, Josh, and Bella. And we ended up just watching this Shroom movie hungover.
Which is a sensational movie. It's the ideal hungover movie. Talking cows, talking trees. It's a great movie.
It's really not. It's really not, guys. Don't watch this movie. Other Shroom movie, which is did you see Midsommar?
Midsommar, yeah, great movie.
Yeah, really good. Paul and I just watched it a couple weeks ago because I love Florence Pugh, and I had to close my eyes during parts of it. I was like, oh my God.
It's a scary movie. I feel like Midsommar is like a upmarket. It's basically Shrooms with a budget. Yeah.
Yeah, it is Shrooms with a budget, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. Well, Shrooms, I forgot about that movie, to be honest. That's not my favorite movie. Rom-coms, I'm not a huge fan, to be honest. I just can't. There's something about them that makes me feel a bit icky.
I love a rom-com, but it's such a fine line between a good rom-com and a bad rom-com.
Do you think women love rom-coms so much because it's like a fantasy that they want to strive towards? I mean, because I think men are much less likely to like a rom-com, right?
I don't know. I know some men who like rom-coms, but again, it is a woman thing. I don't know. Maybe it's because it's a fantasy for us. It's a natural progression from princess movies. So
Exactly.
I don't know, maybe. But for me, it's not so much the fantasy of romance. To me, it's more just feel good. I know I'm going to come out of that movie feeling happy and good as opposed to walking out of Shrooms and being or not walking out, but finishing watching Shrooms and being what the fuck did I just watch?
But that's funny, isn't it? Actually thinking about the psychology behind that, how you feel that way, and I think most women feel that way about rom-coms, but then men love horror movies where you come away feeling scared and depressed and icky, exactly.
I don't like it. Maybe that'd be a really interesting psychological study. So guys, someone please do the psychological study for us. We would really love that. And the other thing that fucking happened this week was so every Friday I sit down and I record a special spin-off episode for Josh about what's going on in my life. I spill all the tea. I get really deep. And last Friday I sat down and I recorded a 13-minute voice message and my thumb accidentally deleted it. And it was so good too. And I was I'm still mad about it, but I ended up sending a 4-minute instead, and even you said, you're like, "That sounded really rushed," but I forgot everything I talked
It
about.
was like, yeah, it was honestly like I was listening to it in normal speed, but it was like listening to it in 1.5 or 2 times speed. It was, yeah, a very diluted version, I feel. So I can see what you were probably talking about in the 30 and 40-minute voice message, but it was definitely, I could tell that it was cut down.
Ugh, I'm so sad about it. That's okay.
Me
Hopefully
too.
tomorrow when you get your Friday message,
Can't wait.
I will be on point. So, let's get into our first segment. Do you wanna spin a wheel?
Yeah.
Alright, I'm gonna spin it. We have family. What traditions or rituals help you stay connected with your family? What do you think?
What traditions or rituals help me stay connected with my family? So, growing up, one thing that really brought my family together, and this is my extended family, because I think my immediate family were very close anyway. But my extended family, so my mum's sisters, so my aunts, cousins, my grandma, granddad, pretty much every weekend, every Sunday, in the UK, it's a big tradition to go for a roast dinner
Mm,
every
yeah.
Sunday. So you have, this huge roast lunch and in a pub, in a nice pub in usually the countryside, if you can get out there. And we used to do that pretty much every Sunday. And as a result, it really brought the family together. I think just spending that quality time with each other and making sure that you commit to that. So something that I've noticed since well, grew up, but also moved out a couple of months ago and got my own place is that I've started to spend less and less time with family, and I've been prioritizing it less and less because I'm just busy and I'm not living with them anymore. So when they make plans themselves, I'm not necessarily automatically included in them anymore. So it's now on me to go the extra mile to make that effort.
Yeah.
And I identified this recently. I was like, actually, I haven't seen my dad in a month, and I haven't seen my mum in 2 weeks. And that's, unprecedented in my lifetime, which is a bit crazy, but I guess that is part of growing up as well. But then I think about how much I love my parents and how much I enjoy spending time with them and my cousins as well, who I really fell out of touch with over the last couple of years, having been practically sisters, brother and sisters. They were like my siblings over the years as kids. So for me, it's so important to make that time to have that quality time. So what I made a note in my journal basically to say, I have to commit to at least once a week having a day of family time, whether that's Sunday, whether that's a midweek thing where I go over for dinner, and then at least once a month, once every couple of weeks, I want to make sure that I see my cousins. And since committing to that about a month and a half or so ago, it's happened. I've spent a lot of time with family. I've seen my cousins pretty much every week, which has been really nice. So
Mm.
I think just making sure that quality time is put in. It's not necessarily a tradition or a routine, but it's making sure that I have that habit in my head that I'm going to see family this week. I have to make time for them. And as a result, we're really close now.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, it's actually funny because I remember your family took me to one of those Sunday roasts when I came to visit. I don't know if you were there, if I was just with Bella and your mom and Cheska, but yeah, it was really lovely. I just remember, like, this, like, pub in the middle of I'm not nowhere, I don't know where we were, but it was really cool, and then also another time it might have been that same day, we went out with your granddad too, and we had dessert, and I just remember him getting the spotted dick dessert, and I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah, every American finds that so funny. It's like we grew up with it, and so we don't even think twice about it. But I mean, that's a pretty stupid name for a dessert.
It's so funny, and I think I got, like, sticky pudding or something,
Sticky
some
toffee pudding. Yeah.
sticky toffee pudding. I actually got that again. There's a Gordon Ramsay restaurant around the corner, and I got, like, a beef Wellington and a sticky toffee
Oh,
pudding, and it
nice.
was fucking good. Anyway, that's, like, beside the point. That's so off topic. I'm, like, really doing a lot of sidebars today, but honestly, that's what makes listening to us fun. But yeah, that's really sweet. You live close to your cousins?
Not that close. I mean, they live just outside of London, or used to. Growing up, they used to live just outside of London in Hertfordshire, which is about an hour's drive away. Now, funnily enough, the two cousins that I'm particularly close with, Charlotte and Natasha, they live in northwest London, so they both bought a place in literally the same block. It's so weird. So Charlotte bought
Wow.
first a few years ago, And then Tasha was like, you know what? I really like this block, so I'm going to buy there as well. So they both live in the same block. And that's about a 30-minute drive from my current place, so it's not too bad.
Okay.
I live in West London. They live in pretty much northwest.
She was there that night that I got super drunk, right?
She might have been. She might have been. I don't
I
remember
think that
which
was
night that
that
was.
night.
Was that the night you went to Heaven, the gay club?
Yeah, but
Yeah,
we didn't get in because I was too drunk.
that's right. I don't
This
think
was
I
years
made it.
ago, guys. I'm
Yeah.
not drinking this year.
No.
Just disclaimer, like, this was, what, 7
We were
years ago?
kids.
Yeah, we were I mean, that's the time to do it, you know? Like, that's the time to
Exactly.
go crazy like that, but drunk Sasha stories are fucking hilarious. That's nice, though, that you guys live, like, close. I don't live close to my cousins at all.
No, it is nice.
It's
It feels like a kind of luxury. I mean, my whole family pretty much lives within an hour's drive of each other, all in London, around London, not far from London. So it's pretty nice to have that.
that's so crazy. I'm the exact opposite. I don't think any of our family members live within an hour of each other.
Wow.
Yeah, so my mom's side of the family, I'm not close to at all. I literally only see them or talk to them when during funerals. Like, that's it. And I've just let that go because whatever, it's always been that way. But my dad's side, I'm super close to. He has 2 sisters. I'm super close to one of his sisters. I mean, I'm close with both of my aunts, but one of them I'm, like, very close to. She and I went to South Africa last year, and we're, like, very tight. And then I have 2 cousins, and they're around my age too. So I have 2 cousins. They're all in my dad's one sister and her kids and my grandma, they're all in Georgia. My aunt and my grandma live a block away from each other. And then my cousins live within 20 minutes, 20 to 40 minutes of them, and they live in this, like, little Georgia bubble. But honestly, like, the traditions that keep me and my immediate family close, I'd say that's, like, me, my parents, my sister, who's, like, not a biological sister, but she was my babysitter growing up, and now she's, like, part of our family. She spends every holiday with us. She has, like, a room at my mom's house, all that. And then my aunt, my dad's, like, sister that I'm closest to, I'd say that's my immediate family, and what keeps us close is honestly our holiday traditions. Like, I always go home for Thanksgiving and Christmas, and we just keep it so chill. We decided one year that we preferred appetizers to Thanksgiving instead of the actual Thanksgiving meal, so we just decided to do appetizers all day, and we have the TV going with movies, and we just sit and eat and hang out and chill. And then we have a lot more traditions with Christmas. There's, like, Christmas Eve, we bake a ton of cookies, and then my mom, my sister, and I decorate them. My dad tried to partake one year, and he just has 0 creativity. He drew, like, a smiley face with a green mouth, and "This little cookie wants money." I'm like, "What? What is happening?" And then we go out for dinner Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, we just do presents and we just, again, hang out and eat apps all day and just chill and hang out. So that's what it is, and that's, like, the same thing every year, and it's nice to know it's the same thing every year with us. As far as, like, my distant family, I just go visit 3, 4 times a year, but I'm, like, realizing sometimes my relationships with my family are pretty not my immediate family, but my extended family are pretty one-sided. Like, I'm always the one visiting. I'm typically the one, like, reaching out, and I'm, like in the same way I wanna stop initiating with friends and in my relationship, I, like, also wanna remove myself from family, which is a pretty isolating way to live, but at the same time it's like, how much energy can I pour into my relationships that's not being reciprocated?
Mm.
Like, how long are you doing this before it's just like a one-sided street?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, well, it's interesting because with my cousins, as I said, we fell out of touch a little bit as we got older and grew into adult life. But the main thing with one of the cousins in particular is that she really makes the effort constantly. And if I make an effort, she will make an effort. And if she's making an effort, I make an effort. It goes both ways. And as a result, we are still really close. There are other cousins who I'm now not as close with because of the lack of effort. And I think that's very important to me. It should be important in any relationship, I suppose, is that effort is reciprocated. So yeah, no, I completely agree.
Yeah, I think for me, like, the pillars of see, I say this with friendships, but I haven't really thought about it with family relationships because it's if something happened and I was in an emergency, like, my dad's side of the family, if I reached out to them or not, like, they're showing up, they're pulling through, they will be there in a crisis no matter what. Like, we ride or die for, like, my dad's side of the family. Like, my aunt's getting a knee surgery right now, and my dad and my other aunt, they're all, like, there together with my grandma, like, all 4 of them. So, uh, which I'm praying that everyone is getting along. That's, like, my one prayer is that all of the siblings are getting along, but I can't remember where I was going with this, but, like, my pillars for friendship are at least are, like, mutual and consistent effort on both sides, aligned values, and the ability to have fun, but also stay home and have a deep chat. The ability to do both
Yeah.
and to do everything in between. But family relationships are different. Like, I don't and it's difficult because they're always gonna be in your life, but, like, how much work and energy do you put into it if it's really one-sided? I don't
Yeah,
know.
exactly. Well, I think we spoke about this before, didn't we? Not just with family, but any kind of relationship. If it's really one-sided, you've got to think about how much you prioritize them and how much you
Mhm.
prioritize your own time and how much you respect your own time in that regard. So yeah, no, I think that's an important point.
Yeah, it's something I have to think about a lot, and I'm still going to continue to visit multiple times a year because my grandma's there, and this little old lady, like, she is the strongest person ever. She's, I don't 80, late 80s, early 9 no, late 80s at this point, and she still gardens and
Wow.
does all her stuff. Yeah, she's, like, the healthiest lady, like, ever. She cooks all the food from her garden, and it's, like, delicious Indian food. It's just the best. But, yeah, so I'm still gonna continue to visit at least while she's alive, and I call her twice a week because, like, culturally, it's so important, and I know 15 minutes of my day to call her twice a week, like, for me, it's 15 minutes, but for her, it's everything, and that's really important to me to still connect with her and talk with her, even if we just talk about the weather and what game show network she's watching and what she's
Yeah,
gardening and what she's eating, like, doesn't
absolutely. And
matter.
I think it
Yeah.
helps I'm sure it helps her to keep her mind active and to still feel that love, even if it's through the phone. I'm just thinking about my granddad, so my dad's dad, who's still alive. He's my only grandparent that's still alive now. He's 93, I think, at the moment. And for a long time, I mean, until he was, I mean, just a few years ago, I mean, 87, 88, even, not even that long, probably more recently than that, he was still working full time. He was a journalist, a very successful sports journalist, and he was still working, still going to soccer matches, reporting on them. And it was remarkable that he was still going. And everyone always said that the moment he loses his job or he stops working, he'll probably start to go downhill.
Yeah.
He lost his job because he wasn't as agile anymore. He couldn't keep moving around and reporting on these games. And everyone said in the family it's really important that we go and visit him regularly, that we speak to him on the phone regularly. And sadly, it just didn't really happen as planned. So I think
Yeah.
two of his kids live abroad. Everyone else just gets busy with their lives. And as a result, he went downhill very rapidly and now is a complete shell. I mean, I'll go and visit him maybe once a month at this point because when I do go and visit him and I sit down with him, it's like a 30-second conversation. It's, "Hi, how are you? I'm good, how are you?" And that's it because he doesn't have the mental capacity to have that conversation anymore. So I think that's really
Yeah.
important what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Just, like, keeping in touch with, like, older family members and making sure that you're staying in constant contact with them, and they have so much wisdom and so much life experience. Like, my grandma doesn't really talk to me about anything that she's been through, but you can just, like, tell, you can see it. And if
Yeah.
you're so lucky to have a grandparent or a older family member who has the capacity to tell you about their life story and things like that, sitting down and listening is always really important. So,
Massively.
yeah. Let's get into the meat of the episode. What areas of life have been going well this week? What areas have not been going well? Josh and I both fell off this week and did not really complete our homework. I mean, I started working on my homework on Tuesday. So I'm like 3 days in to
Yeah.
doing my homework of my gratitude practice every day. 3 days in feeling great, but I didn't do it for the whole week. How about you?
Well, as I mentioned to you before the episode, I actually forgot what my homework was, and got in touch with her, and I said, "Do you remember what it was? Because I
Get in
don't.
touch with
Please,"
me?
I
Yeah.
said, "Please don't shout at me," but I forgot, and she did shout at me, unfortunately, but no, she
Yep,
didn't.
I screamed.
No, she did. But yeah, no, I didn't remember what it was. So I know now what it is, and that I need to write out a list of of what's important for me in my next career move and my next job and what I want from a career, because ultimately that's what's going to define where I end up. And having that clear vision is so important. So that's one thing from last week. I think from the past week, something that's been going really well is growth in line with, I guess, spirituality and mental health. There have been some hurdles over the last week when it comes to relationship, when it comes to work, finances, that I have struggled with. And it's been a real challenge mentally. In my head, I've been thinking that just anxiety, really, just severe anxiety over lots of different areas of the wheel, lots of different areas of my life.
Yeah.
But I've been quite proud of the way of how resilient I've been. I've been taking myself away and meditating, sitting, and instead of just stressing about whatever it is that I'm stressing about, I'll stand up, walk around the room for a little bit, or go for a walk, go for a run, and take my mind away from it. And the moment I find, and again, we've spoken about this so many times before, the moment I find that I'm moving my body, suddenly the anxiety just disappears, it evaporates, and
Yeah.
it's incredible. It makes such a huge difference. But I think that's something that's very easy to lose sight of, is that actually when you're in that headspace, not always, but it can be very easy to get out of it and to just ground yourself and meditate and practice gratitude. And it's something that's been going really well for me. So I would say I guess I'm not sure what category that really falls under, spirituality perspective, definitely thriving at the moment. The big struggle for me over the last week, I would say, that's been causing me the most anxiety and stress is finances.
Mm.
And again, I think this is something we discussed possibly in the first episode. It's a sort of recurring theme.
Yeah.
And again, it is something that comes into play when I think about what's important for my next career move, because I need financial stability. I'm
Yeah.
stressing so much about money at the moment that it's causing quite scary thoughts, to the extent of, I don't think I've spoken about this on this podcast, but of course you know about it, about the gambling. So I have a history of quite severe gambling addiction going back to when I was 17 years old. I'm now 27, so it's been going on for, well, close to 10 years. I am now 2.5 years clean, which is the longest I've ever gone. Almost, well, yeah, 2.5 years. I say almost 3 years, but we'll get there.
About 900 days.
About yeah, just over 900 days, which is fantastic. The longest I'd ever gone before that, since I was 17, was less than 2 years. So I'm doing really well at the moment. But it is a daily battle. It's a constant struggle, especially when finances are tight, when my financial position is difficult and it is tougher, which it is at the moment. So right now, as I discussed with you before, I think again it was in the first episode, about these unexpected payments that I had to make, of course, moving out and having to pay my bills and pay for the apartment, of course. And of course, work is not going so well either. So my role is very heavily commission based. I do get a salary, but I rely heavily on deals and commission. And when
Yeah.
it's not going well, especially when I'm having to pay my own bills now, it's a real struggle. And
Yeah.
so that has been causing me a huge amount of anxiety. That coupled with the fact that I don't want to change the way that I live. And I'm really struggling with that, because it's summertime. I want to be going to all these festivals, which I am. I've already bought the tickets for them, but it's costing me so much money.
Yeah.
And what it ultimately leads to is these thoughts that, okay, well, how can I easily get that money back? So let's say I've spent £100 today. How can I easily get that money back? Well, I could just stick £2,000 on the football and I'd make £200 back immediately. Of course, I know deep down, having been clean for 2.5 years now, that's not how it works. And actually,
Yeah.
over the 10 years or so, well, not less than 10 years that I was gambling, I never won. Actually, the fact of the matter is, I mean, my story is, and I was going to do a TED Talk on this. I was invited to do a TED Talk just before I moved to Dubai, with the title that I made and lost over £1 million before I turned 21, which is insane. And that was just 21. So now the figure is probably closer to 2 million, which is huge for that kind of money to pass through my fingers. And that's money not that I wagered necessarily. It wasn't money that I had. It's money that I won and then I lost. So that alone should say to me that there is no winning in gambling. Everyone knows that. There are no winners
Yeah.
unless
Always
the house
wins.
always
Yeah.
wins unless you're a pro poker player And even then, most people lose in poker. So
Yeah.
there is no winning. I'm never going to win. But that thought keeps creeping into my mind when I'm like, I need to sort out my money. I need more money. And it's really hard. It's a really scary thought because I know that if I do fall into that trap, it would be a complete disaster for my mental
Yeah.
health, for my physical, for everything. That my entire wheel would suddenly, it'd
Yeah.
be like the stock market crashing if that happened. And so
Yeah.
I want to avoid that happening, but it's a daily battle. It's a daily battle. And I was hoping that after 2.5 years, I'd be over it. But unfortunately, an addict is always an addict.
Yeah. Yeah. And addiction is something that you're going to have to be challenged with for the rest of your life, probably. When it's not a matter of like it going away, it's just a matter of you're going to get better and better at dealing with it. And the thing is, like, when you stopped gambling about 2.5 years ago, I only know how many. I only know how many days you haven't been gambling because it's linked up to my Duolingo streak. So sometime when I just hit 900 days, like I think, oh my God, Josh just hit 900 days of no gambling. I think it's within a few days of each other, our streaks of Duolingo and not gambling. So it's like really helpful for me to honestly, it's like a really nice accountability thing for me at least. When I'm always cheering you on in that way. But it's like when before you were doing this, as soon as you stopped gambling, you were able to save enough. And that's what enabled you to buy your apartment. It's what enabled you to do all of these great things is because now you have those excess funds. Because before you were seeing gambling as like a quick fix, like a get rich quick kind of vibe. And then as soon as you would lose it, you would lose it. And then it's not a get rich quick thing. It like seems like that, but it's definitely not. And it's never going to get easier. I mean, it might get easier to deal with it, but it's never going to completely go away. This wanting to gamble. As far as, yeah, you've been stuck with a lot of crazy expenses, and we talked about it in the first episode. So if you haven't listened, go back and listen. But as far as needing more money now, there are, I think, like a couple of things. There are three things I'd say. Number one is I would take a really hard look at your like day-to-day spending. And you said you have a budgeting system. So if you're sticking to that, you should be okay. You said you're going to be paying it off in 4 to 5 months. You're shaking your head. Josh is shaking his head. So he's clearly not sticking to his budget. So I would take a hard look at your budget. And let's say you do want to buy these tickets to these festivals, right? Okay. But where can you cut spending in other ways in order to make up for that amount? Does it mean like instead of, going to the pub and having beers, you guys are just, you go and have a water and you just don't have anything? It like looks like cutting back in other ways so that you can do the things you want to do. So I would take a really intense, hard look at your budgeting and see where you can cut back. The second is, like there are like two aspects to money, like your spending and then what you're making. So cut back on your spending, obviously, like where can you cut back? And then how you're making more money, like other than gambling, because we know gambling is just losing money at this point. But where can you increase your earnings? Yes, like it doesn't mean hustling a little bit more your job. You haven't been feeling super motivated. It doesn't mean like changing your perspective with work so you can hustle a little bit more with work. Doesn't mean creating additional revenue elsewhere. What is that? Does it mean picking up an extra job on the side for the, just for the summer or just seasonally, just picking up some extra work? What does that look like? And the third I'd say is you said something really interesting when you were talking. You said, I need more money now. And I'm like, well, that sounds like a really big scarcity mindset perspective on this money thing. And it's like, I think it's like cutting your spending, figuring out how to earn more, and then adjusting your mindset because you're really operating right now out of scarcity. And obviously money is not going to come to you when you're operating out of that way. Like, how can you adjust to a abundance mindset perspective and shift that in order to get things moving again? Because it's about your headspace too.
Yeah, that's an interesting point because actually there are times where I become really tight with my money and very strict with the budgeting, which, you could tell from the shaking of the head, I have fallen off with recently. And there are a
Yeah.
couple of reasons for that, but then I will go through a wave where I suddenly think, right, you know what? I have the money. I have all the money in the world, and I'll start tapping my credit card left, right, and center, living with that abundance mindset that I am already rich and hoping that the rest will come. And generally speaking, very interestingly, When I live with that mindset, of course, I have to be careful. I can't use this as an excuse to just go shopping and spend thousands of pounds.
Yeah.
But when I live with that mindset, I do get random blocks of money appearing here and there, which is really interesting. And it's when I'm living with that scarcity mindset where I'm feeling very tight, like I don't have enough money. When in reality, actually, I do. I keep telling myself I don't, but I have a good amount in my savings. The problem is that what I try to do is not touch those savings. I try to live
Mm,
every month with just paying off my credit card bill using my salary and paying off my, the bills and everything just using my salary. I don't want to touch those savings. And
yeah.
so months like this month where I am going to eat into my savings by maybe five, six, £700, it hurts. And it shouldn't hurt me because actually I do have the money. And I've proven to myself in the past that when I live with that abundance mindset that I do already have the money, then the rest comes and I do get the money. So that's an interesting point. Something else I also wanted to say that I was just thinking about when you were talking, which you touched on, is how my life has changed since I stopped gambling.
Yeah.
So that's something that's really kept me away from it over the last 2.5 years. Is that 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago, let's say, I was a hermit. I would stay at home. I had constant anxiety. My heart was constantly racing because I always had a bet going. I had very few friends because my social life, I just never went out. I didn't want to go out because, again, I felt anxious and tired the whole time. I always had a bet on, so if I did go out with friends, I'd just be checking the bet the whole time. I didn't have any money back then, of course, because I was spending it all on the gambling. My relationship, my family suffered because whenever as I said, it was like the stock market crashing. When I'm
Yeah.
gambling, my entire life is the quality of life, and there are different reasons for it, but the quality of life is shot, is gone. And so that's something that I'm constantly reminding myself of, is how amazing my life is now compared to 3 years ago. And I wouldn't have that life. I wouldn't have that quality of life if it wasn't for my sobriety, or however, whatever you want to call it, my cleanliness. So that's something that I like to remind myself of. And yeah, I mean, that's the main thing really. So that's what kind of keeps me going.
I mean,
And
that in itself is abundance mindset, you
yeah,
know? Being like, I have all of in the last 2.5 years, you have just being like, I have all of these things because I gave myself the gift of my cleanliness of not gambling. My relationships with my friends are better. I have a romantic relationship. My relationship with my family is better. You literally bought a home. Like, that's crazy. Like, that's insane. The amount that this cleanliness has given to you. And that in itself is abundance mindset. So, yeah, I mean, I'd say, like, for your homework, and we can have little reminders or something. So I'd say do the homework from last week. We'll come back and we'll circle back on it next week. But also just look at your finances and just figure out where can you cut back on your spending, your like frivolous spending, where how can you set yourself to earn more, and how can you shift your perspective around this money, because it is around abundance mindset, and it doesn't necessarily mean going out and being frivolous, but going out and investing in the things that are important to you, knowing that investments are going to come back to you. And how can we set that up, and
yeah,
really maybe getting clear about that, like maybe doing some sort of meditation on money, or maybe it is like reading books about money. What does that look like? And we can brainstorm some ideas around what other systems and other ideas we can do. Like for me, when I was feeling really scared about money, I just went out and bought a ton of books about it and started reading about money. And it really
nice.
helped. Because sometimes if something is like really feeling resistance to you, sometimes it helps to just have some fresh perspective in there going.
Yeah, I think from the perspective of countering my financial anxiety, which seems to be constant at the moment. It's the only thing really dragging me down. Work as well, but I think that's because of the finances. They go hand in hand, really. I think it is about earning more and finding a way to earn more, whether that means getting, as you said, a weekend job. But as we discussed before as well, passive income. Everyone who is rich in 2024, super rich in 2024, has multiple streams of income. So why am I solely relying on this very poorly paid job that I'm so reliant on commission? Because if I have a bad month, I have nothing to fall back on. If I have a
Yeah.
bad sales month, which I have been recently because it's a tough market here in London, here in the UK, I don't have anything to fall back on. Whereas if I have multiple streams of income, it doesn't matter if one of them is failing. So I think that's actually that's a bit of a breakthrough for me in terms of thinking that way.
Well, let's
The
get your passive income set up. Let's do it.
Absolutely. I think it's something, yeah, it's something I need to look into and actually get motivated to do it because that motivation has certainly not been there recently.
Okay, so scrap the first homework. Your actual homework this week is to set up one passive income stream. Just set it up.
Okay.
Just, yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
you can
Fine.
do it.
All right. Yeah.
You can do it.
Fine. And the other thing is the spending. I think that's the other thing that I need to use to counter this. Spending, if I look at my budgeting, I know what I'm spending all my money on. The first 6 months of the year, I was doing fantastically in terms of my budgeting system. So I started drinking again. That's gone out the window. It's become really bad again because my problem is, I don't know if I told you this, when I went to watch the England game where that incident with someone sleeping in my bed happened a couple of weeks ago, I got pretty drunk and I'm a very friendly drunk. I mean, you've seen me,
Yeah, I know.
you've seen me intoxicated before.
It's honestly my favorite thing. I mean, it's not great for your health, but Josh under the influence or Josh at a festival is my favorite thing because he just goes up to people and says, "Hi, how you doing? You having a good time?" And he just goes and talks to everybody. It's my favorite thing, and I do it too, but, like, it's my favorite thing because, like, you're, like, the male version of me in that way. But I just love how friendly you are. You're so friendly, especially like, you're friendly in general, but under the influence,
Yeah,
especially at a
just
rave,
extra.
you just go up to everyone and you're like, "How you doing, bro?
Yeah, I like his
You
shirt.
having a good time?"
Yeah, it's true, but that's so thank you for backing up my point, but I'm a very friendly person when I'm
Yeah.
under the influence, and that is a great thing because it makes me lots of friends and it makes me have a great time and makes everyone around me have a great time. However, it also means it costs me a lot of money because I end up buying everyone drinks. Everyone. So on the England game that I was just talking about, the European final, I got pretty drunk and I went to the bar and I asked a couple of people around me, I was like, do you want to get Jaeger bombs? A couple of people said yes. And I was like, hang on a second. Everyone else is going to feel left out. So I went outside to the smoking area and I asked 10 other people, do you want a Jaeger bomb? 10 of them said yes. I ended up buying 15 Jaeger bombs at the bar. As we've just discussed, I can't afford that. I don't have the money for that right now. And this is what happens when I'm drunk. And there is no other situation where I would spend 150, 200 pounds in one night, in one day. It's the only thing that drains my account every month. And so I was able to go I say 6 months, it was probably the first 4 or 5 months of the year, very minimal drinking, and it saved me a lot of money. So why I'm capable of doing it, so why can't I do it? Why am I not doing it? And I think that's going to be something that's really going to help if I can just stop drinking again.
Okay, so let's make a commitment. At least let's see. Okay, from now until the next recording, go without a drink.
Yep.
Do it.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I'm not drinking this year. I'm 7 months in, almost 8 months in. It feels awesome. Like, you save so much money, you lose a ton of weight, like everything feels good. But drinking is such a huge drain on your finances, on your health, on everything. It is literally poison. I mean, I do miss being a little tipsy, okay? I do miss being a little drunk. But as far as everything else, it's a drain. So maybe it's the alcohol.
I think it is. I think it is. I think that makes a big difference. And actually that money could be reinvested somewhere else, but also that's the money that I could be spending on festivals instead. I'm going to a festival this weekend. I'm going to a big cricket match in Birmingham, which is just north of London, tomorrow. They're all great opportunities to drink, but they're also great opportunities to prove that I don't need to drink.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's very clear. It's very clear.
Yeah.
So you got your homework, you got it done. So let's set up the passive income, quit the drinking, and take a look at your spending and shift the mindset because nuts.
It is. It is. It's not good. It's not good. But how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Let me take a look at the wheel. I'd say one area that's going well, I mean, as far as this past week, what's been really going well has been my fun and like romantic relationship. I'd say like this past weekend was really nice. Friday night we went out and like had a nice time, my partner and I, and you got all the dirty details about that, but I'm not going to share those here. But we went out on Friday, Saturday, like we Paul and I went out and we had a, I mean, not to trigger you with your gambling, but Paul and I love to bet as something fun with each other, and we had $1,000 bet of something. So I finally cashed in my $1,000 winnings, and he bought me some sunglasses and a dress. So that was really fun to go and do luxury shopping. And I had all my girlfriends over for paint night, which was really nice. And then Sunday, we just had we did our chores and we went on a bike ride. And it was just like a nice
Nice.
Sunday. Yeah. So like it was fun. It was good, like a good classic weekend. The work week has just been same as always. It's been working at my 9 to 5, working on the podcasts, like stuff like that. So things have been good. As far as where I'm feeling challenged right now, I'd say like spirituality, I've fallen off of my meditation game a bit, because for me, like I do my meditations in the sauna after I do my workout. Like we have a sauna next to the gym. So after I finish my workout, I go into the sauna for 20 minutes and do my meditation. And I just haven't been doing that either because the sauna's off or because like I wasn't doing a workout that day or whatever. And my meditation game has like fallen off. And I also just like have fallen off with the other like spiritual practices as well. Like I only just started my gratitude practice 2 days ago. That was my homework for last week, but it does feel good now that I'm doing it, but I've fallen off a little bit. I feel like it's for me finding a strategy where it's okay, if I don't get to the sauna to meditate, where else can I have this like meditation practice in my life? Because if I don't do it then, I just don't do it. So that's where I'm feeling a little challenged this week. I'm falling off of that.
Why don't you do it?
Honestly, I think I just forget because it's such a habit stacking thing where it's such an automatic thing, like, okay, gym and then sauna to do the meditation. Like, if I don't do that, go back and forget that I have to do that. And it just falls off. Like the habit, because it's so ingrained to do the habit one way, if it doesn't happen that way for whatever reason, like this week I did laser hair removal, so I'm not really allowed to go in the sauna for 3 days. And I wasn't allowed to sweat for 24 hours after. Like, I'm not, even if I don't do it then, maybe I'll go by the pool and do a meditation by the pool. I'm not really allowed to be out in the sun for 3 days. So it's like when this kind of thing happens and I don't have my regular places where I go do my meditation, the habit like falls off.
Okay. And is
Yeah.
there how can you change that? I mean, is there a way that you can ensure that no matter what, you don't miss the meditation practice? Because you don't have to do it in a sauna, right? You
Yeah.
can. I know what you mean is that you've got the routine, you've got that habit in your head, and that's what's comfortable. And so if you miss that for one day or a couple of days, you're just not going to do it. But why
Yeah.
can't you just start doing it at home? That's the easiest way to do it. A meditation should be easy.
It should. And even just like I used to have this morning routine. It wasn't, I mean, let's call it spirituality, growth, whatever. Like I used to have this morning routine where I'd get up, I would do my gratitude practice, and then I would do like a meditation, my gratitude practice, and I would jump on my rebounder which is like a mini trampoline for 10, 15 minutes to a couple songs, just get the blood pumping and have a lemon water while I was doing all of this. I've fallen off of this morning routine, and I really think I'd love to get back on that. Even if it's a quick meditation in the morning, just like a 5-minute quick meditation in the morning. And then if I want to do a longer one in the afternoon, or not afternoon, whenever I go to the gym, do a longer one then, that might make more sense for me. But I think just getting back on this like morning routine, it takes an extra, 20 minutes
Literally.
to do this.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be my homework, is just allowing myself those extra 20 minutes in the morning to have the gratitude practice, continue the homework from last week, get on the rebounder and do a meditation.
Absolutely. I think it's so important. I mean, you know how I feel about meditation. I feel like whenever we talk over voice message and you tell me something that's going on in your life, forgive me if I'm wrong, tell me if I'm wrong, but 90% of the time my advice is, are you practicing meditation? Are you practicing gratitude? Just like how you say every time to me, are you moving? That's my response to you.
Yeah.
And I'm so passionate about meditation and mindfulness and spirituality because I think I've seen it make a difference in my life. Practicing meditation when I'm feeling stressed or anxious and just regrounding myself, it's so important to do it consistently. And the studies prove it as well. I can't pull up a specific study right now, but all the YouTubers say it. So it must be true.
No, there are a lot of studies around it. I'm sure I could find some.
It's about increasing your endorphins. So it helps calm you down, calm your mind. And if you practice it regularly every day, regardless of if you feel good continue doing it consistently and you will feel the difference in your in your mental health, in your mental state, in your emotional state, in everything.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing, it is a practice, right? And that's what I do. Like, I am a certified meditation teacher. My first podcast is a meditation podcast. Like, I really should be walking the talk. And I go through phases where I do, and I'm like on it every day. And even if I go to a yoga class, I even consider that like part of meditation because it's like a moving meditation for me. And yoga is literally priming the body for meditation. So, okay, cool. But I really need to be walking the talk and bringing this back in, and yeah, it's the same exact thing. I always ask you if you're moving your body. You always ask me if I'm meditating, and I definitely wanna get back on that. So that's what I'm definitely gonna do this week is just adding that, like, morning routine in because even if I can't get to the sauna and doing that meditation, like, even just a quick 5 minutes, like, really makes a difference.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So that's definitely your homework, I think.
Morning routine.
Getting back on that horse and making it work, getting into the habit.
Yeah, and we talked about atomic habits last week. We talked about atomic habits last week. I'm still going back and taking notes because I said it last week, I'm gonna say it again, note takers are money makers, okay? So I'm doing, like, 1 chapter a day, and I feel like going back and evaluating, okay, these notes I'm taking about habits, like, how can I implement them into my life? Especially with the morning routine or quitting bad habits that I have, like flossing, like, I really should be flossing. I know it has, like, nothing to do with anything, but it's a habit I wanna have.
Yeah, flossing
Um
is good. I went into the office last week though, and there was a guy sitting opposite me, one of my colleagues, I guess you can call him, and he was just flossing at the desk all day. Like he just had
Ew.
it in his teeth all day, and I was like, "Bro, what are you doing?"
No, that's gross, that's super gross.
But yeah,
Yeah, but just going and implementing, like, what I learned, like, how can I create these atomic habits in my life that will really initiate things and spark things for me? So, that's my homework, get back on the morning routine and implement some of the things I've been learning in this book. So, yeah.
absolutely. Okay. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing how that goes because, as I say, how important I think meditation and all of that practice is. So I'm curious to see how it goes.
We're moving on to the last segment. We're gonna mastermind with you guys. I'm gonna play a voice recording and we'll get to it. So this is from our gal pal Monica.
When I think about the wheel of life or the pizza of life, I definitely think that the fun and recreation aspect of it is the one that I'm currently working on the most because I have been such an overachiever and perfectionist for so long that doing things for fun have it's just never been a priority for me. It's always been what's the purpose behind what I'm doing, and the purpose has to be something just that I can identify with numbers and not necessarily just feeling good or feeling happy. Not something that I'm proud of, but definitely something that I'm working on is getting back into doing things just for fun and understanding and accepting that fun and feeling joy is enough of a purpose. Like that's, you don't have to do something just because it makes you money or because it has some sort of success defined by numbers. It could literally be for fun just because it brings a smile to your face. And that's something that I'm really working on right now because I have been experiencing so much burnout over the past few months just because, again, I'm not doing the things that spark joy. And I think that has been the biggest thing is just the lack of prioritizing things for fun and doing things just for the joy of it has been really affecting the way that I approach everything. And it even hinders my productivity if I'm fully honest with myself. Because I'm not doing things for fun or things that I enjoy, then it really makes me procrastinate in other areas of my life. And it just makes me not enjoy everything else that I'm doing and not as productive, quote unquote, because I spend so much time just thinking about, oh, I wish I wasn't doing this and I wish that I was doing something else instead. So, really trying to work on prioritizing and just putting first doing some things for fun, just so that I can re energize myself and really prevent some of the burnout that I've been experiencing. It's honestly easier said than done because I really struggle with just disconnecting and just being okay with doing things for fun. Even then, when I'm doing something that is just for fun, I still start thinking about, well, I should be doing this or I should be doing that or why am I doing this instead of, something that is a little bit more productive. So, something I'm working on, something that has definitely been at the forefront lately is just prioritizing things for joy and just for fun. But it has been a struggle being fully transparent.
That's really interesting because I feel That's something that you struggled with fairly recently, not necessarily in relation to fun, but I guess similar in the way that you felt guilty for not working or not
Yeah.
working enough. So, I mean, how did you counteract that? Would you say you have overcome that?
I go through phases for me. I go through phases where I always prioritize play and rest, even when it's difficult. For me, because I know that I feel a lot of guilt when I take breaks, to be honest with you. Like when I take breaks and when I rest and when I just have fun and play, I feel a lot of guilt that I'm not being productive enough and that I'm not doing enough. But then I realize the thing that changes it for me is having the realization that I have my best ideas when I'm just chilling out and doing nothing. Like, in the same times I send you my voice messages every Friday, I sign off of work a little early, I'm by the pool, like, I have my best ideas when I'm doing nothing because when you sit down and you give yourself space to rest, it opens yourself up and also resting so that you can actually be more productive later. So it's like seeing rest as a part of the process. It's like almost like when you're going to the gym, you have to have a rest day at some point because that's when your body can recuperate. It's the same thing with like your productivity. It's like resting is a part of the process. You can't be productive 100%. And it's the other part of me realizes is you don't have to do anything to deserve rest and fun. Like it's the whole point of doing this life thing is to enjoy it. So even when I feel guilty for resting and playing, I still do it anyway, even though it's hard. Even though I beat myself up and be like, why aren't you being more productive? Why aren't you doing something that's going to be making you money? Why aren't you working on this or that or the other thing? And it's, well, first of all, I deserve rest and play, and I deserve to enjoy my life just for living because that's what makes life worth living. And it's just, okay, I feel the resistance there, but I'm going to do it anyway. And it's almost like scheduling in the time. So I might still feel guilt, and that still comes up for me quite a lot, but I schedule in the rest time. I schedule that in so that I can't get away from it, even when it feels like I shouldn't be doing it. But
Yeah,
it's still difficult for me. Yeah.
absolutely. I was going to say something similar that it's really important to schedule it in, schedule time in for rest or fun in Monica's case. And you need to stick to that. Make sure that you actually use that time for fun, even if you feel the guilt, even if it comes to that time that you've blocked out and you feel guilty for not working or not doing something productive, you make sure you stick to it. But I also think it's really important to tell yourself as well. I mean, I'm a big advocate for neuroplasticity and training your brain to be a certain way because you can change the way that your brain thinks, you can change the way that
Mm,
your brain operates. And so when you're in those moments where you're feeling guilt, I guess it also comes down to practicing gratitude for what you already have.
yeah.
So if you're feeling a way that you're not doing enough and that you're not going to be making any money or achieving anything by having this fun, instead of that, catch that thought and reframe that as something else. Catch that thought and reframe that as I'm having fun now so that I can be productive later. I'm having fun now so that I can allow my brain to function properly and to its fullest potential later on.
Yeah.
And again, it may feel silly to do that initially, but I found that, especially when I was starting out with the overcoming gambling, I really got into the whole neuroplasticity and changing the way my brain thinks thing. And every single time I caught a negative thought coming into my brain, you're ugly, or you can't do this, you should just go and gamble, you're never going to make any money. I would catch that thought and completely flip it to the opposite. So I would tell myself, you're really good looking. You're
You're a
going to
fresh
make lots
spring
of money.
chicken with your little haircut.
And shaved face, exactly. So I think it's really important to catch those negative thoughts and reframe them because it may not seem it in the moment, but that is a negative thought telling yourself that you can't have fun, that you need to be productive all the time. And it's really
Yeah.
important, I think, when you get those brains coming into your mind to reframe those and actually reprogram the way you think.
Yeah. It's like reprogramming, understanding that rest is productive for your mental health. And it's a part of the process. And I really love like the cup analogy. So let's say you have a cup full of water and you pour out this water into into your career bucket or into your finance bucket or into your friend bucket, your relationship bucket. Like you're constantly pouring water out. And eventually it leads to burnout and you have no more water left in your cup. And the way to fill your cup back up, and the way to avoid burnout is to rest, is to play, is to have fun. So without doing these things, we get burnout and then we can't be productive. Like literally, rest is productive. It is a part of the process, and it is filling your cup back up so that you don't experience this burnout later, you know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I completely agree. And burnout
Yeah.
is the core thing there as well. I think you have to remind yourself that if you don't allow yourself to have fun and to rest and to recover, you will burn out, and burnout's not fun. I think
No.
you and I have
And
both been there. It's not fun.
yeah, and recuperating after burnout, like resting for an hour a day or 20 minutes a day or 30 minutes a day or whatever, or maybe like a day a week, doesn't matter. Doing that is much easier than when you experience burnout going and taking 2 weeks off as a vacation. Like it's much easier, and it's easier to reset constantly than all at once, because that's what ends up happening is when you're burnt out, you need a lot of time.
Yeah.
You know,
And
and a lot of times we can't allow that for ourselves.
yeah, exactly. And I get it as well. I mean, if during my work day, 9 till 6 o'clock, for example, I'm doing anything other than working, I do feel guilty. I feel like I should be working. I'm not doing enough to make the money that I should be making. Or if I don't work hard during the day, then I won't make any money, which is true. And I think during the day, having that mindset is okay. So if you allow yourself a certain time period, but then in the evening, I'm allowed to have fun for a couple of hours. I'm allowed to go out, and that's my time to let loose and to enjoy myself, because you can't expect your body or your brain to operate to its fullest potential 24 hours a day. You need the
Yeah.
sleep. You need to have time to have fun and to socialize and to have a good time. So it's important to allocate yourself that that hard work time where you focus and you do solid work for those hours, and then that time afterwards where you're allowed a good amount of time to sleep, a good amount of time to have fun. And yeah, I think that's the way to do it, really.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm with you. I'm with you on that one. So it's still a struggle, though. It's easier said than done,
Of course.
but it's just even when taking rest is difficult, just doing it anyway. Same thing as going to the gym. Even when you don't want to, that's when we show up as our best selves, is when we show up and do the things that we don't want to because we know that's what we need.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
All right, cool. Cool, guys. So thanks for listening. We'll catch you next week. And next week we're gonna actually do our homework.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're gonna do our homework, and we're gonna hold each other accountable, because that's what this is. So we'll see you next week, guys.
See you next week.
All right, bye. We hope you enjoyed this episode.
Don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, and follow along on social media.
If you would like us to help you mastermind something in your life, please send us a message.
We'll see you next week on the Mastermind Moments podcast.